You're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
Hey, glad you could join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your hosts, Keith Wheeler
and Nuria Colby.
And what are we talking about today, Nuria?
Today we're going to talk about, can you still make money with Amazon KDP in 2025? So that's quite a big topic, I think.
It is. I know we did this topic, back in 2024, which seems like it was just yesterday. But yeah, it's something that I hear all the time that self-publishing is saturated, or KDP is saturated, or whatever, and it's that you can't make any money doing it.
Yeah.
And so I just I think this is a topic that is going to be, even though we say 2025, it's going to be evergreen, because I feel like we're going to be coming back to this every year, because there's going to be updates, obviously, but there's what I found happens, especially in the last year or so, is people are just overthinking things.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. It's the one thing that's stopping people, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like they think about things and they see the problems rather than the opportunities. And I can understand why, because this is what I sometimes think whenever we go into any bookstore, because we love books in general,
right,
and we love going to bookstores and having a look. I ordered about 8 books the other day off Amazon just because I wanted to research something, and we just love books. And we go into, there's big Waterstone stores in the UK here. I think in the US it's Barnes and Noble. So we love going in there, and they're absolutely huge. And there's shelves with books everywhere. And when you walk in there, you think, oh, it's really saturated. There are a lot of books. How on earth are people going to buy all of these books? How do they make money? They make money because Waterstones are in every city, in every town, and they do make money. And what I find so amazing is that some of the books that are in those stores, they're not bought every day, whereas our books have the chance of being bought every day on Amazon, because it's such a big company, such a big enterprise. So I think whenever someone says it's saturated, I just wish they didn't say that, because is there more competition now than there was?
Right.
Yes, there is. But that is not a bad thing. That means that there's more demand as well.
Exactly.
There's definitely
right.
more demand for books now, more than ever, I think. So to me, that is to say that it's saturated, or to see the problems when thinking about going into this business. I find that very sad, because to me, it's been the best thing I've ever done. Mm-hmm. And I can't see why it can't be the same thing for somebody else. I think with the right approach and looking at it as an opportunity, I think it's an absolute fantastic way to start a business. And I think you agree with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You actually said almost word for word what I was thinking, which is, people say the word saturated when they really mean competitive.
Yeah.
And competition is not bad. Competition is what businesses are made off of. If there was no competition, then that, like you said, then that means there's probably no demand. Mm. And so, I would actually steer, if I stumbled on a niche where there was one other person in that entire niche and that was it, I would not be surprised if there was 0 sales. You know what I mean? Because if there's only one person there, then that means there's chances are there's not sales. The day and age where you just stumble upon a niche that is, a unicorn, where it's, oh no, there's all these people want it, and there's only one or two people competing. And those days, unfortunately, are probably few and far between now. But there are new publishers coming out book publishers coming out every day, self-publishing books. And I know one of the arguments I hear all the time is, yeah, Keith, but you've been doing this for years, so you've got brand recognition. I have I have probably about a dozen pen names that I publish under at this point. And there are pen names that I came up that I literally just started publishing in late 2024, and I'm seeing success in it. So it's not that they're buying Keith Wheeler books. They're buying books that a pen name that they've never heard of before is publishing, and they're still buying it
Yeah.
because the need is there, the desire is there. People are still buying books. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen that people do when it comes to publishing books and kind of just getting in their own heads is, and I wish I could just tell them, stop thinking like an author, stop thinking like a book publisher, and think like your customer, think like a book buyer, whether it's the kind of content that they want, whatever you're putting out, put out something that they would want, not something that you want, you know,
Yeah.
but it's just, it goes everything from the content to, the keyword research and the categories and all that other stuff. They watch all these YouTube channels that tell them, oh, do this with your keywords, and this is how you do keyword research. How does the person that is going to buy your book, how are they going to look up your book? How, if, what are they going to look for? That's what you need to think more like a buyer and less like the seller.
Absolutely. That hits the nail on the head, because that's exactly what I always say. And I think, when again coming back to this, there's too much competition. It's the only time when I hear people say, when it comes to publishing on KDP, it's the only time I hear people say, "Oh no, I can't do that. There's too many people already doing it." No other business or nobody going into any other business thinks that way,
Right.
because an example is the town where I live. There's a lot of chicken shops.
Right.
Nobody says, I can't open another chicken shop because there's so many already out there.
Right.
They open another one every week, I think,
Right.
and they're all making money. And I think it's the only time I've encountered that sort of mentality, that it's too saturated. There's too much
Right.
competition. Any other business looks at that as a good thing, because if there is a
Exactly.
lot of competition, there's a lot of demand. So,
Yep.
um, if think about it as a business, you said think about it rather than an author, think about it as a publisher, which is roughly the same as thinking about it as a business person.
Exactly. Right.
If you think of this as a business and you approach competition as a good thing,
Right.
not only because that means there's a lot of demand, but it gives you something to work with. It gives you something, you have to be better than them.
Right.
So,
Right.
that just pushes you ahead I look at it like that. I look at when I research a book and I want to create a book and there's a lot of competition, which is what happened with the positivity switch. There's a hell of a lot of competition if
Right.
in positivity and mindfulness and any self-help subject,
Mhm.
really.
Right.
And you just have to make sure that you're either as good or better. I don't think mine is better, but I tried to create a really good book cover that stands out. I tried to make it different. So my book is a bit shorter than all the others, because I thought people like short
Hmm.
information. They just want to
Right.
know, what do they need to know, and that's it. They don't
Right.
really want to hear a lot of fluff. So I thought, I try something like this. Am I going to be a millionaire with that book? No, I'm not. But I'm going to create more books and build a brand and build the business that way. It's like any other business. You can't make an income on just one product. You have to have
Right.
different products in your business. And I look at this as, just being another business. So to me, it's an amazing opportunity, because it's something that we can do for free, really. It doesn't really cost
Right.
much.
Right.
Which other business can say that?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
open a
Agreed.
chicken shop, you have to buy a lot of chicken. So,
Yeah.
it's going to
Yeah. I mean,
cost you.
yeah. I mean, the example you gave of the chicken shop. I mean, I was actually thinking something very similar. Because I was thinking, if people in regular quote business had that same mentality, you'd never see another McDonald's opened up, and yet there always are, you know. And getting back to the whole, you know, you need to you need to just not focus on just one. I mean, you know, McDonald's doesn't just make burgers, you know, they've got other things, you know. And so I agree that using that competition, I think competition is way better. Having something already started that you can use as a frame of reference is way better than starting from scratch. You know, why reinvent the wheel when you already have somebody over here that has done it, has customers, and more importantly, has customer feedback. You know, and again, that's whether we're talking about books or we're talking about restaurants or whatever. You know, everybody loves getting their 2 cents of saying what they think about something. So, you know, it's getting your competition, looking at their reviews. Again, whether it's a restaurant or it's a book, it doesn't matter. You can see what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and then you're not reinventing the wheel. You already have, like I said, a framework.
Exactly.
And then from that, it's just, what can I do to make it different? What can I do to put my spin on things? You know, you don't have to, whether it's a fiction book or nonfiction or a puzzle book, you don't have to, you know, do something revolutionary. You know, all you have to do is what can you add to it? What can you, or in your case, like as far as making it shorter, what can you take away? What, you know, can you remove the fluff if you're doing nonfiction? But yeah, there is so much potential still out there because, you know, there's, you know, more readers every single day, you know, and people are finding new things that they're interested in.
Yeah.
Whether it's nonfiction, new things that they need to learn, or whether it's, you know, fiction and they just want to escape from the everyday and get pulled into something else. I mean, there's just so much, like I said, there's just so much potential out there. And it blows my mind how people will, and they'll spin it one of two ways. They'll either spin it and say it's saturated, so you can't do this, which you tell me I can't do something, you watch how fast I'll do it. But also then you have the other people who are saying, you know, it's so easy that you can, you know, do it in 3 easy steps. And so if people think that there's this dichotomy and it's, if they try to do it in 3 easy steps and it wasn't easy for them, well, then it must be saturated. Like, no, you know, there's competition, but no, it's not 3 easy steps, you know. Like, it's just like any business, it's going to take work. But with that work, I have found you appreciate it more. You appreciate every step it took. And as long as you're always learning, as long as with every book you're trying to do a little bit better than you did on your last one, or if you're doing videos, with every video you do, you're trying to do better than your last one, whatever. And it's that with business, it's that with life, you know. I mean, I never want to be the guy I was yesterday. You know, I want to be, you know, the guy I'm going to be tomorrow.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. It's also, you know, talking about being saturated, it's not because I think social media is a really good place to research a little bit as well, because the fact that there's Book Talk and there's Bookstagram.
Bookstagram.
So there are communities on social media that are just for book lovers. And to me, and I don't know many other communities on Instagram or on TikTok, maybe because I'm not, you know, that's one thing I like books and I know about those. But it just goes to show how many people there are that absolutely love books and that are buying books all the time. So I think, you know, to say it's saturated, I think we've talked about that and we said, you know, it's not. But that's another thing I can sort of think as an example why it's not, because there's just so much demand and there's whole communities on social media that talk about the subject of books because they buy so many books and they show their books. And so that's the one thing. And then the other thing about from a business perspective, you saying that obviously you have to have the mindset of it being a business rather than wanting to make money quick. I think that is the other problem. People expect to make a return really quickly.
Right.
And they have watched a video that says, make this book in 3 easy steps, like you
Yep.
said, and they're not selling. And that is
Hmm.
because I think making this business work is like any other business. There's a process, and that process takes time. And I don't know of any business, whether it's a small corner shop or a larger store or whatever, there aren't many businesses that make a profit in the first year.
Right.
That's just a fact. That's,
Hmm.
it's just very unusual. And most businesses, I think I read about it, they only make a profit after 3 years.
Right.
So I think the fact that sometimes people in KDP make a profit before that,
Hmm.
I think it took me a few months, but I didn't make money straight away. But it
Right.
took a while. It was a process, and I thought I was very lucky that it happened so soon because I gave myself a year, and I thought,
Hmm.
let's make this work. So I think that the problem is people expect results too soon.
Right.
I think that if you're going to make a couple of books and then expect them to sell straight away, that's not going to happen because it is competitive out there. So you do have to market your book, you do have to
Right.
promote your book. It's not impossible for a book to sell without being
Right.
promoted if you hit the right niche. But I think that part of the business is getting more difficult. I think
Right.
you do have to work at marketing and at promoting it. It's like any other business. You have to show people that your book is out there. They don't
Yeah.
know otherwise. And if you have a shop in a street, in a busy street, it's easy because people see your shop, they might come in. Being on Amazon is a little bit like a shop, but I think you're not in a busy street. You're sort of hidden away a little bit at
Right.
first. And it's only when you either advertise or Amazon pushes your book forward if they think it's going to sell, then you get the sales. So
Right.
it's not as easy as it sometimes sounds. Make a book in 3 easy steps and put it on Amazon and make 1 million. That's just not going to happen.
Right.
But
Right.
unfortunately, there are still people that kind of give that impression that, and maybe older videos as well, where it,
Hmm.
it was possible, where it's not so easy now. So there is all that, and I can understand why people give up quickly when they've had the impression that this is a great opportunity to make money quickly. It's a great opportunity to make money, but not quickly. That's what
Right.
I would say. Do you think that's a fair thing to say?
I do. I do. I think the days of what we call publish and pray,
Yeah.
where, back in 2014, 2015, it was less competitive. And so, yeah, you could put a book up there and get organic sales easier because your book
Yeah.
was more visible. And so now, yes, you may have to run ads, although Amazon ads are fairly inexpensive. You don't have to necessarily go for the most expensive keywords, and
Mm.
we could do a whole video or a whole podcast on Amazon ads. But yeah, you can do things like that to better your chances of getting visibility. So yes, as far as getting organic sales, depending on your niche, it can be harder to get them right out of the gate. But like you said, that's like any business, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, even a business on a main street, in New York City or whatever, they still have to do some kind of advertising because you have to kind of coax people into coming into your shop as opposed to somebody else's that they've gone to for last 10 years. So it's really no different. The other thing I see is people, and this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this episode, which is people, authors and book creators getting too much in their own heads and overthinking things. And I've said this, I mean, probably a million times by now over, all the videos and interviews and everything else I've done, which is done is better than perfect. And I'm not saying put out hot garbage, but I mean, I've had people come back to me, you know, week after week asking me, basically the same question, but slightly different because they're still trying to dial in the title of their book. And again, this goes back to what I was saying before about think like the person that you want to read your book. What are they going to look for? You don't need to throw all these keywords. Yes, the algorithm may love that, but at the end of the day, Amazon's algorithm is based on relevancy. And it's all based on what they search for and what are the chances that whatever they search for, your book is going to be the one that they click on, buy, and leave a review for. And the algorithm has to, figures that out in milliseconds. And so at the end of the day, it needs to be something that the end user is actually going to want.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so, spending weeks trying to come up with the perfect title. I mean, if you want this to be your business, that book is not going to be your only book. I mean, you're not going to, I mean, can you make money that way? Absolutely. But are you going to make a full-time income on one book? Probably not, And so, like I said before, just as long as every book you do a little bit better, better cover, better with your research, better with your title, more importantly, better with your content on the inside. As long as you're always growing, that's what's going to make your business more successful in the long run. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's all about really getting started, getting out of your own head, and getting that book published, getting a good book with a good cover published.
Absolutely. I think that is the main thing, really. And when we were talking earlier about competition, and it's not a bad thing because you can see who's doing what and what they're doing, what works, and then you can
Right.
kind of emulate it and do the same thing. The danger with that is that I see a lot of people creating the same type of books.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mentioned this before. There was a book I was interested in. It was called Don't Believe Everything You Think.
Right.
And I looked it up, and there were about 20 books with the same title, the same subject. So I think it's a mistake when people go on Amazon and research and they think, oh, this book is doing really well. I'm going to do a similar one. And they kind of copy the
Right.
same thing. And that's not what it's about. It's about taking inspiration from what is selling, but making it your own. Don't copy the cover. Don't copy the title. You can copy the subject, the idea,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about creating something that's different. Because if there's so many books the same, who are the buyers going to choose? That's where it's bad competition in a way.
Right.
Good
Right.
competition is when there's really good products side by side and they've all got something different and something good about them. So I think there's a kind of a learning curve as well when you're first starting this business that people go through, and they start like that and then they realize that's not really working for them.
Right.
But then a lot of people also don't know how to compete with those books. What does it mean to be different? What does a quality book mean? There's all these questions. So I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I'm going to ask you, if you had to start in 2025,
Mm-hmm.
what would you do?
The first thing I would do is I would I would brainstorm and I would write down all the topics that I know that I love doing, whether it's fiction, what I love writing, what I love reading, or if I decided I want to do nonfiction, or I decided I want to do puzzle books, whatever, I would write that down, because when you first start out, the best thing you can do is focus on the niche that you are familiar with. One, it makes creating the book a lot easier, and two, it makes it a lot less scary because you don't have to spend as much time researching things because you know it. And so that's the first thing I would do. And then with knowing that, then I would do a little niche research and see which ones, looking at the BSRs, which ones are, people searching for, are actually buying those books, because they've got a good BSR or bestseller rank on Amazon. The closer to one, the better, the more, more it sells. And so that tells me that that these readers or consumers are what I call hungry, that they're, especially if it's not just one book in that niche. One book can just be, oh, it's just a bestseller, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if the rest of them are selling in the ranks are millions, it means no one's really buying them. So that's what I would do. I would find one that I'm familiar with, and notice I didn't say anything about competition.
Yeah.
I look at what the BSR is, what the bestseller rank is, and are they selling? And you can look at the competition a little bit, but the competition really, that doesn't, when you're doing that kind of search, on Amazon, it's really only to show you the competition for that keyword phrase, not the niche itself.
Yeah.
You know, and so like I said, so many times people just get in their own heads, and it's really not that. It's not that complex.
No.
I mean, I'm not making it sound like it's easy, but it really comes down to, if you're creating something for something, you're building a business, whatever. What do your buyers want? And what can you give them? My buyers may want, books on tennis. I don't know anything about tennis, so I'm not going to write a book about tennis. You know, that I'll leave that for somebody else's, that's a niche somebody else can get into. I'm not going to do that. And so again, that goes back to what I do know. Now when there's a niche, people are buying books about softball, and I know a lot about that niche, that those are the kind of books that I'm going to create. And then I'm going to look at those, the books that are already there. I'm not going to copy them, but I am going to look and see, look at the BSR, see which ones are selling, read their 4 or 5 star reviews. What do people love about it? Read their 1s, 2s, and 3s to see what they don't love about them. So what I can do to make mine different, make mine better. And getting back to what you're saying about the title, and I've seen it. I agree 100%. I've seen that. And I just cannot wrap my mind around that mentality, because I could see someone saying, well, if someone is, Pride and Prejudice is a, really popular book, why wouldn't I just name mine this one? Well, why would someone buy yours over one that's got thousands of reviews?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I can see for a split second that decision, like why oh yeah, this is highly searched. Great. But why would they pick yours?
Yeah.
If yours is not any different, if yours is not better, if it is better and everything else, why would you call it the same thing?
Yeah.
Because people are still going to go by, we all buy based on either people or brands that we know, like, and trust, or with social proof. If we don't know them, we don't trust them because we don't know them. Well, then we have to go by what other people have said about them. So they're going to go with the ones that have higher reviews. If you're just stealing somebody else's title, just because it's well searched, doesn't mean they're going to buy your book.
And the other problem is, if they know the title of your book and they type it in, which one's going to come up? Not yours. It's going to be the other one. So it's kind of counterproductive to do that anyway. But I have to admit, sometimes it happens by mistake, because
absolutely.
I before I called it the Positivity Switch, I had so many different titles. All of them were already out there. I thought I was coming up with these really good titles.
Yep.
And they were already there. And even the Positivity Switch, I looked it up. There was nothing like that. And it's only after I published it, I found one that was slightly, not the same, but it was a bit similar. And I can't remember what it was now, but it was something with a switch. So I thought, oh, that was that wasn't great, because I wanted it to be completely unique, but it's impossible to find something completely unique. Yeah, it's a difficult one, but I see a lot of people going into it without researching that part, or maybe doing it on purpose, because they think that way they're riding on the coattails of the famous book, but it's really not advisable. And I think, you said more or less what I would do as well if I was starting. What I would probably add to it is that I would start by, if I had no idea how to publish, this was my first time, I would probably start by publishing a notebook, just to get the feel of the upload process.
Right.
Just so that I know I've published a book, I know how it works. Because before I did KDP, the thought of publishing a book was something completely alien to me. It was something that's not within my capabilities. I can't publish a book. You need an agent, you need a publisher, you need this and that and the other. And that's what I thought anyway. I didn't realize that you could self-publish. That was something that was completely new to me. And I didn't even know that you could self-publish low content books, like notebooks. I always thought a book would have to be written.
Right.
So I think in anybody that's not involved in this business, publishing a book is a big deal. It's
It
like,
is.
it really is a big deal. I would never have thought 5 years ago even that no, a bit longer now because I've been doing this for a while. 10 years ago, I would never have thought that I would publish a book.
Right.
And I've done it, and actually it's quite easy. It's not,
Yeah.
I've done more difficult things than this. So I would say that from that perspective, once you have done a few notebooks and you're into it, you know what you're doing, it's actually not that difficult, and it's easy to get into. And once you know the practical side of it, the actual uploading and the creating the book, then comes the hard part, and that's marketing and
Right.
selling your book. So I think there's two different things. Publishing is easy, and when people say on YouTube, publish your book in 3 easy steps, they're right. It is 3 easy steps maybe, but it's selling it that's not so easy, and that's where strategy comes in. So,
Right. Right.
and that's something you only learn over time, I think.
Well, and I think that also that's where, going back to what we were saying before, making sure that you're creating a book that people want, and
Yeah.
creating a good book that makes it slightly easier to publish it and market it, because it's something that people want. If you don't know that if there's nothing special about it, then how can you honestly promote it? Because you can't come up with ideas as to what makes it stand out, because it doesn't. And so, yeah, I mean, as far as the upload process, I agree. I mean, publishing something low content or whatever is a nice way to learn the upload process, the technical stuff about it. But yeah, it's the hardest part, the most long-term part is the marketing and promotion. And one thing that I've said this for years, the best way to promote your book is to start working on your next one. Because then they find you have more products out there. And again, we do a whole nother episode on that. But yeah, I mean, I really do think it comes down to, it's not saturated. It is competitive, depending on what niche you're in. Some niches are more competitive than others, absolutely. But again, that could just mean that there's more need for it, more want for it. Again, you look at the BSRs, the bestseller ranks, and that'll tell you what people are buying. But yeah, I mean, I would absolutely, and I've spoken to all of my kids about this, and anybody who will really listen, I absolutely think that even in 2025, you can absolutely start a new book publishing business and be successful.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, yes, it can take time, but it's something, any business takes time,
Right.
and this is something you can do for free, which is
Yep.
the other thing that, starting a business, and I've done it in the past. I had a language school, I had the jewelry business, there's different things I've done. They all took money to start up
Right.
to begin with. The school had to be fitted out. We had to hire the premises to have the school in. We had to buy the desks, the blackboards, the the chairs, everything, which was a big investment. So
Right.
it's something you don't have with Amazon KDP. There's literally a zero entry fee for joining. And unfortunately, that is why there is a lot of competition as well, because obviously a lot of people are joining, but there's a lot of people joining that are giving up
Right.
quite soon after. So even though I would say there's a high turnover of people joining and then leaving,
Right.
the ones that stay are the ones that can make it work, and they are our competition, I would
Right.
say. But I'm not afraid of them, because I look at it as a challenge. I look at it as, I can try and do something better. I can try and do something different.
Right.
And there's a few strategies that people can use. And you touched on that when you said the best thing to do is to write your next book. Because if you have books in a series or I was thinking I should really write a children's book series where it's, for example, teaching different things, and you can teach kindness, I don't know, what else is there you can teach children? Kindness, being thankful, being whatever, all those things. And you can call them all the same sort of title, but with a variation. So kindness is my superpower. Thankfulness is my superpower. Being brave is my superpower. And you have them all. This is just an example. I'm sure there's books that already exist with that name. But you can see what I mean by creating a set of books that are all under one umbrella and that teach something. Because most of this business, what you really want to create is books that either teach something or books that help in some way. And you touched on that earlier as well. And if you can give people a solution to something, they're the type of books that people buy, I find. And if you can get those things right, I think there's absolutely every possibility to create a good business on Amazon KDP.
Yeah, and the best thing about, books like that, whether they're in a series or just within the same brand, is they end up cross-promoting each other.
Exactly.
And so, again, and if they're cross-promoting each other, the more books you have out there, then the more chances you have that someone's going to find you and find your other books. And therefore, if you are running ads, you only have to run ads to maybe one of the books that are there. And then, again, just to get a little bit of visibility to the brand. And then when people find that, assuming you're putting in good content, they're going to come back for more. Yeah. And so, there are definitely strategies. We could do, multiple episodes about pretty much the same topic. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is in 2025, you can still be successful self-publishing books. And I don't mean, you started 5 years ago and now you can be successful. I'm saying even if you start today.
Yes.
We're recording this in February of 2025. You can still see success self-publishing books on Amazon KDP or, Ingram Spark or wherever in 2025.
I absolutely agree.
Well, this has been another great Mastermind, Nuria. Once again, a huge thank you to all our listeners and viewers who came to tag along. If you enjoyed today's Mastermind, please consider following or subscribing to the podcast and even leave us a review and let us know what you thought. Also, if you're listening to the podcast, there's a little thing at the top that says text us. You can text us a message and let us know what you thought. Until next time, I'm Keith Wheeler.
And I'm Nuria Corby.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.